Hello, good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Am I audible to you? Good evening, sir. Am I audible to you, sir?
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Your voice is also clear.
Okay, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I'm Gauri Gulati and I will be moderating the session for today.
Okay.
And sir, I think we should wait for the participants.
Very much, very much, very much. Not a
We'll
problem, not a problem.
start by 4, okay?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, not a problem. I was just trying to test whether everything is going okay or not.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Shall we start, sir? Bhavna ma'am, I would request you to kindly keep your camera off. Yes, sir. Shall I start, sir?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the day 8 of the National Level Workshop come 1 week faculty development program organized by Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, a scheme under Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Training, Ministry of Education, Government of India. Powered by Droid Panel Group, a unit of Arjun Das Gulati Memorial Society, Prayagraj. So today, On day 8 of the Faculty Development Program and day 2 of the workshop on public policy and governance, we have with us Professor Tapan Chandola, IFCAI Law School, IFCAI University, Dehradun. Sir will be taking the first session for today. So good evening and welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, you may proceed with the session now.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good evening to you all and all the participants, and a very noble intellectual meet is going on, and I am very happy to be a part of it. And today I would like to discuss and lay before you all the aspects pertaining to the theme of this program, that is the public policy and governance. Let me begin with this aspect that as far as the public policy in India is concerned, more also we find that the public policy is directly related with public governance. And India being a democratic country is no different as far as the other democratic or the republic countries in the world are concerned, wherein the the governance plays a very vital role, a very vital important position as far as implementation of the policies pertaining to the welfare as well as to the development of a country is concerned. To begin with, let us all remind ourselves that India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic with a parliamentary, form of government, which is federal in structure, and it has got its unitary features. We also know there are council of ministers headed by the prime minister, and also it gives the advice to our president, who is also our constitutional head. Then in state there are council of ministers with chief ministers. We all know that. And then information about the Constitution of India, Parliament, legislation, union, administration, district, and on local administration also. It is very much laid as per our Constitution is concerned. If you see this hierarchy, we would find that at every stage, at every level, our Constitution has tried to give us governance at every step. Even the highest post of governance is also checked by our Constitution. So the Constitution not only establishes its importance, but also tries to give us certain options for laying down the planning, for laying down the policies at every juncture, at every step, at every stage to our society. And that includes the netizens, the citizens of this country. And then, of course, it also tries to see that the governance is percolated at the local level, till the local level. And therefore, the Indian governance and its administration is termed as very unique, where metropolitan and as well as the rural form of governance, they combine, they come together to see that our country prospers the way it is laid in our constitution, and it also affirms the intention of the constitution as such. As far as the development part through the public policy is concerned, that refers to the planned change for the betterment of the society, for the better quality of the society. Now, this is also a planned process to organize, to create human energies and productive resources so that it responds to opportunities and, of course, the challenges. Here I would like to mention that any development in a society takes place on a foundation, and that foundation is, again, it is checked, inspected, instructed at 4 levels: physical, social, mental, and psychological. Physical, social, mental, and psychological. Now, if we take about the relationship between the governance and the public policies, this concept has started with economic connotation, like economic planning, growth, measuring the economic planning. Now, there is a measurement as far as the per capita income and the gross domestic product, that is the GDP, is concerned. You know, initially, this development, which otherwise was understood only as an economic development, was actually confined, was confined to economic growth, including the growth in industrial sector and manufacturing sector, banking, commerce, agriculture. But later on, energy and power, communication, transport, they also became a part of the public policy planning and its implementation. I should say this with the utmost responsibility, that not only the economic issues or the economic considerations, there are certain non-economic concerns also which are a part of public policy. There is at times confusion that this public policy means economical growth or social or both. Whether one phrase which was initially, it was used by our legislators when they were talking about making the laws and rules enumerated in our Directive Principles of State Policy, DPSP, pertaining to Article 49 and 51 AG, and even 48, that whether the social and the economic development can blend to constitute a combined or a unified development. To this, I would say that many such issues, many such aspects, which are actually supportive to economic growth. You may say that these are non-economic concerns or non-economic areas, like equal distribution, whether it is the equal distribution of income or whether it is the equal distribution of food, or even equal distribution of opportunities in the areas of employment, in the areas of business, in the areas of trade, commerce, that creates in combination sustainable development. And therefore, the state is responsible to see that all these different aspects of the public policy, when it converges at one forum within one aspect, that is sustainable development, emphasis should be for the process of detailed planning, keeping in mind the different issues and challenges pertaining to the society, and with relation to the society, it also includes the economic growth, the social growth, as well as the political growth. Because very seldom we talk about the growth in our legislation, whether our legislature has grown or not. And very few people throughout the world, they have talked about, along with the sustainable development, the political development. When I say political development, that means maturity in the assembly, within the assembly, maturity amongst the legislatures. Though the elements to create maturity, that is of course out of the control, out of the planning, but yes, we cannot underestimate their contribution towards developing a policy, developing a plan, developing finally the overall infrastructure of a country. Economic development, according to some thinkers, the name of few are coming in my mind, like W.W. Rostow or Gunnar Myrdal. They were having this opinion that the causes of development, or even the causes of underdevelopment in a country, is due to certain factors which actually negate the overall efforts of a government, and hence the policies which are made cannot be implemented to its optimum effect and level. These factors like low income groups, predominance, or you may say heavily dependent on agriculture, predominance of exports, primary exports, and somehow if the economy is fragile, then insufficient capital. accompanied by not modern but traditional techniques of doing agriculture, or even adapting the traditional techniques of creating industries and running them. Illiteracy, for example, is one of the biggest hurdles which most of the Asian countries, and primarily India also, is facing, which is creating the hindrance for making people aware. Now, illiteracy, just to refer this at this juncture, also creates very serious pressure on the economy, on the society, because the primary concern of every policy maker is to see that whatever policies are made, whether the policies are based on social structure, economic structure, cultural structure, they are implemented, and the last person who is at the receiving end gets the benefit. This can only be done if the enforcing agency as well as the beneficiary both understand the importance of it. Now, as far as India is concerned, unfortunately, this has till now has been a unilateral effort, because the other end, our dear brothers and sisters living in our villages, still they are not exposed to the different formations of the policy making. They are not exposed to the benefit arising out of these policies, which is always made for them only. And as a result, at times, the policies or the planning, they meet a shortfall. Population pressure is another aspect, and we all know that human development cannot sustain if the society is uneducated or is falling on the lesser part of the totality of the education system. Now, as far as the Indian history is concerned, India is not new to the policy and development and governance there too. Since Indus Valley civilization, that civilization has already revealed, and it is all before us, that earliest town planning, architectural excellence, and the exposure which the artisans and the traders used to get, that traversed in that civilization very smoothly. Civilizations like Mesopotamia, which is nowadays it is called Iraq, it has also reported very good advancement in human life then. And I would like to mention Karl Marx in this concern, when he says that the ascetic mode of development is the oldest in the history of mankind, which possesses three oldest river valley civilizations. One I just named, two I just named, that is Mesopotamian and the Indus, and in between comes the Chinese. And In Asia, the history of Indian society is rooted for more than 500 years. And that history tells us that India was already having a discovery of metals like copper, iron, and bronze. It was having the discovery of trade units. It was having the discovery of agriculture. And this all used to create the different successful conditions of characterizing the civilization, not only of Indus Valley, but also of Mesopotamia as well as Chinese. For example, the town plan. The town planning of the Indus Valley has really astonished the whole world. Its urban infrastructure, for example, the connected sites of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, that showed the excellent formation of town planning. Major evidences are there of the agricultural, of the architectural evidences, and many such civic structures, which in those days, in that era, were important to establish a governing policy which is checked and which is equally successful, like making of pond, roads, drainage system, etc., which today are also one of the primary parts, inseparable part of policy making, policy and governance. To the extent that even maritime trade network between Harappa and Mian civilization, Rumalia, that all have been established and proved that these civilizations were in contact with each other. That also included Afghanistan. The international trade, which is again a part of governance and public policy, that made us receive so many articles, gems, gemstones, blue sapphire, and so many even different kinds of grains. India was a country of growing wheat, we all know. India never had this direct agricultural operation in growing the different formation of groceries. There was a time when India was solely dependent on the natural or naturally available food, which at times was our staple, was a part of our staple diet. Even as far as transportation is concerned, bullock-driven carts and horse riding were the chief. Why I'm saying all this? Because if you talk about the pre and the post-independence public policy contents, we find that India was no new to this, all this, what we talk about today. You talk about the drainage system, you talk about the docking facilities, you talk about the flat bottom crafts, sailing outside the India, all these were there. The beautiful aspect of this was that our different philosophers, which fortunately we had at different times, they gave a very vivid picture about the growth and development of our society, of our economy, that includes trade and commerce. Aryabhat, Varamihir, Charak, Brahmagupt, Sushruta. We all know, as far as Sushruta is concerned, he gave to this world more than 700 forms of surgeries, to which it is said that the current human race, or our surgeons of today, they only know around 35 to 40 kinds of surgeries. The National Medical College of Australia, it somehow have preserved, it somehow has preserved the Sushruta Shastra, and they try to develop, they are trying to develop and create the new methods of surgery. So as far as the public governance and public policy is concerned, academics in this way also finds its way in our society. A very vital aspect which at times we undermine while talking about the overall development, sustainable development in the line of the policy making is concerned. And therefore, all these giants, they have tried to develop the Indian formation of mathematics, astronomy, medicine in that ancient period. As far as the architectural techniques are concerned, which today we learn, the aspirant, the engineers, the young engineers, the young aspirant, the young engineer who are the aspirants of becoming a full-fledged engineer tomorrow, they also try to trace out these architectural formations, techniques, to learn how to create a successful structure. Its geometry, its overall dimensions, they are also studied and they are traced by the current generation. And at times they get astonished the way it was created in those days when it was claimed that facilities were very limited. But still the approach was to create an infrastructure, a physical infrastructure in line with roads and in line with the monuments. Even in the 19th century, when the British, when they were ruling India, the way the physical infrastructure was developed with the help of iron, many of the techniques which they adopted was from the local, not engineers, but the local artisans. The local Mensen also tried to help out in making these bridges and roads, including rails. You would agree with me, I think, that these primitive civilizations, these ancient civilizations like Harappa and all, they were at times, they were ahead of their times when they were talking about developing a metallurgy, an extremely scientific concept. And in that, they were trying to build up structures out of copper and bronze. The Vedic Aryan tanned leather, which also finds some traces in the Mahabharata when the excavation took place in that great historically important battlefield of Kurukshetra in the early 60s. There were very chief evidences that as far as the weaponry is concerned, the structures are concerned, as far as the aspect pertaining to tools are concerned, they were quite developed. So India is no, knave as far as this aspect is concerned. I would like to draw the attention of you all, the illustrious mind out there, that as far as the making of the policy is concerned, if we can draw out what we have just narrated, that policies pertaining to infrastructure, pertaining to trade, pertaining to mining, pertaining to academics, pertaining to medicines, pertaining to astronomy, even pertaining to agriculture, were very neatly laid. And India was a formidable country with a very solid and fixed infrastructure based on a very neatly and very correctively measured policies for the society, for the civilization, for that matter. We all boast that India is an agricultural society. If I can refer to this aspect, that in those days, farmers were free from giving the taxes. And even if there used to be any collection, that used to be the collection of a very minimal amount of collection of the crop from its total output. And this burden solely lies on the king, in those days known as Nirpa. And even if there was a taxation, which in the Arthashastra of Kautilya, that is Chanakya, he very clearly lays that very strict but fair system of taxation was laid. And he made certain principles where he says that when we are talking about the welfare of the public, when we are talking about nation building steps, then the tax policies, or you may say the other aspects of revenue generation, should be chosen with utmost caution, because not necessary that every citizen, every group, every institution within the society is in a position to give tax, to part out with his or her or its income. Though in those days, till the 19th centuries, we were called the golden sparrow, but still there were people who comparatively, as compared to the then economic health of the people at large, were a bit inferior, or whether I should say this word or not, I should say a bit weak. That would be better, I think. So as far as the aspect of development, including social, economic, cultural development is concerned, that also include environmental development, which today, when it is converged, is being termed as sustainable development. From Justice P.N. Bhagwati to S.R. Khanna and to so many people, so many judges, they have reiterated time and again that policies and governance cannot overlook the different small fragments of sustainable development, and one of the major fragment of sustainable development today is environmental development, which even in those days was taken care of very neatly and very cautiously. And you would be very happy to know that the coming civilizations or the coming dynasties after 800 or 900 AD, they borrowed these principles for the welfare of their dynasty, for making their kingship fair, just, and transparent. Mughal Empire, for example, and the development of the society in the Mughal regime, in the Mughal dynasty, that it is characterized by political unity, centralized administration, a uniform system of governance, good network of inland trade, commerce, and growing of economic health with the help of overseas trade links. Overseas trade links. Now, all these were borrowed from the ancient period. Rather, it was inspired from the ancient period. And at one point of time, the Mughal Empire was holding the overall economic progress of Asia for more than about 90% of its totality. You must be knowing this, that at one point of time, at the time of Babur, when Babur came to India around 1526, when he was trying to develop the Mughal dynasty in India, he was holding the second largest economy in the world. Second largest economy in the world. One very noted historian, Arjun Dev, in one of his works, he says that the estimated Mughal economy was around 24.5 of the total percent of the world economy. 24.5% of the total world economy. That was the second largest. And in the time of Akbar, he would be, very pleased to hear that Akbar was having overall income of overall million pounds, which was equal to the entire treasury of Great Britain. And in the case of Aurangzeb, it was around 100 million, which was twice that of the Europe. And this was all because of the policies which paved the way for a planned development on the fronts of economy, or rather at the fronts of economy, at the fronts of different social structure, meaning thereby that this was not achieved in a fortnight. This was all there because of the hard work of the predecessors, where the government policies or the policy of the Nripa or the king, or later on known as the Badshah in the Mughal period, in the Muslim period rather, which spans for around 800 years or so in totality, including the slave dynasty and all. There was a considerable planning based, and I reiterate, based on the different aspects of social norms. Society is based not only on economics, it is based on agriculture also, it is based on employment also, it is also based on the medicines, because not only economic health, but physical health, mental health, social health, and of course the intellectual health, they blend together to create the complete compass of what you say today known as the sustainable development, which is one of the primary aspect of of the total, you may say, development, which is churned out through the governance, and then governance is put upon effectively the planning, that again comes out with the help of different formations of planning, which is finally it comes down when it is reflected in the form of public policy. So public policy in its totality is not a single tool, it is not a single formula, it is not a single base, it is not the sole basis. Rather, it has got different fragments, different inseparated parts, which collectively creates a policy for a nation. In the 16th and in the 17th century, if you see that there was a very great synthesis which was reported between the Islamic and the Indian form of governance. Islamic and the Indian. When I say Indian, that means the ancient form of administration. There was a time when the science of astronomy was being studied. Today, astronomy is termed as one of the subjects. It is being taught as one of the subjects. It's a part of academics now. So Islamic astronomy and the Indian astronomy, both were coming together, both had come together, where the Islamic observational techniques and the Indian calculative or the computational techniques, both were working in tandem to formulate a genesis in the science of astronomy. I will not go deep into that whether this really played a part in the creation of the society, but yes, it definitely gave very good directions to the societal changes thereof. I would like to mention out here that there are certain heritage sites in India, like Jaipur, Udaipur, Mathura, Ujjain, and of course Banaras, which became the places of this creation of this genesis. And these places became the hub for the creativity of, or for the creation of not only science and technology, but also art and literature. Also included at times the place for creating the roadmap for social planning, including town planning, including corporation planning, including municipal plannings, including infrastructural plannings, including the planning for the establishment of civic bodies. And we cannot rule out that as far as the policies are concerned, not always it is necessary that the policy will pour down in the descending form to us right from the top, because creation of policy cannot lie, cannot rule, cannot be converged in few hands, because sharp brains can be found anywhere. Thinkers can be found anywhere. And wherever a thinker locates himself, herself, from that place only originates the philosophy, originates the overall planning, originates the overall governance for that country. All the leaders, whether you find in the ancient period or in the medieval or the modern period, definitely they came from certain towns. And incidentally, they came from very small towns. Tinsel towns may not be, but very small towns. And these towns always, on regular basis, they boast of the creation of not only the intellectual worth or intellectual wealth, but also civic, economic, religious, political, as well as the research wealth. Research wealth. When I say research wealth, that means centers which created research, centers which gave lessons on research, like Nalanda. So once Nalanda was playing a very imperative part in making the public policies in the Mauryan dynasty. All the thinkers from various fields, from arts, from science, from commerce, from economics, they used to converge there, and whatever used to get decided, that used to get conveyed to the king to take some notes, to take some points out of it and try to implement in the national building policies. If we take the aspect of the post-independence public policy, after independence, we all know, and we have heard so many times, that the Indian economy was in a very poor state. Here I would also like to mention, though it is not a part of the theme, but I would like to correlate it. We always say that the British, they looted our country for the last 175 to 200 years. But in actuality, the actual loot started only in 1938 and ended in 1946, in the 20th century. Why I'm saying this? Because the then policies of the then colonial regime was solely meant to strike out the wealth in favor of the British. And even after independence, such economic wrath which was pulled upon us because of this looting for a consecutive 7 to 8 years made the Indian economy reach to a very poor state. Actually, if it would not be wrong to say that the public policy was at a stage of complete stagnation. Nearly half of the population at that time, just after independence, was below the poverty line. And 2/3 of the population, of the Indian population, was completely dependent on the agriculture for their livelihood. Here I would like to state that even in the Mughal period, there is a comprehensive description, a very vivid description about the agricultural development in India, within the Indian society, about the plight of the farmers. And there also nothing was very different to what we see today as far as the condition of the farmers are concerned. The brittled tools were used to do the farming, and there was no respite for the farmer in the medieval period if he or she used to suffer because of drought or because of any kind of disease which used to get spread and completely destroy the crops, the standing crops. Today, the government is trying to create some harmony between the economic growth and, the agricultural growth. But still we are lagging far behind against the other economies of the world. And just think about when India post-independence was entirely, two-thirds of its population was entirely dependent on the agriculture, and there was no respite for the then farmers also to create or to grow the crops with the techniques which the other rest with the as compared to the farmers of the other countries, the techniques which the farmers of the rest of the globe were using, the Indian farmers even have not heard about it. So it can be said that the entire economy was dependent on agriculture. Only 2% or around 3% of the population was employed by industries. Can you imagine when today when we talk about the governance, when we talk about the policies, since 1947 till date, the aspects which actually gave a huge setback to the Indian society, to the Indian civilization, to the Indian economy for that matter, is still persisting. This is the most unfortunate part, ladies and gentlemen, that when we talk about the public governance, when we talk about the public policy and good governance, we forget the different fragments of the society which have created or which created this country, which created this Asian plateau, the Indian plateau for that matter. We forget about the small scale agriculturists, small scale industrialists. We forget about the peasants. We forget about the unskilled or the semi-skilled laborers. But we try to create, we try to plan a township. We try to create, we try to build a bridge. We try to create, we try to build spaceships. But we are foreletting, this is the word, it's a very harsh word at this juncture, but we are foreletting the primary elements of the society who play the vital role in the creation of a total structure of a country that includes the economic structure, and that leads finally, which leads to the sustainable development or the sustainable advancement. If Justice Kuldeep Singh wouldn't have taken the matter in his hands, I don't know what would have been the case as far as our environmental plight is concerned, though there is no respite to it. The recent Joshimat crisis again says that what kind of planning we are talking about, what kind of progress we are talking about. That township which thrives on its ancient notions, the township which has some huge ancient heritage, now it is at the verge of complete debacle. It's on the verge, it is standing at the verge of complete demolition because of the man-made so-called planning. So when we are also talking about the aspect of governance, whether it is corporate governance, whether it is political governance, whether it is economical governance, whether it is scientific governance. The battle between Sir Homi Bhabha and that other fellow, both were from Vikram Sarabhai. When Homi Bhabha decides that during the Indochina war, he decides that let us now spread this news that India is going to make an atomic bomb. Vikram Sarabhai resigns from the Council of Sciences, saying that anyhow, atomic fission or atomic bomb or the atomic weapon cannot decide the overall fate of a nation. And he referred to that Hiroshima Nagasaki disaster. That means that the overall governance is also needed at times to refrain from taking certain acts, to refrain from making certain plans, to refrain from considering certain thoughts which can prove disastrous. And again, I will refer, Joshimat is a very recent crisis which everybody must have heard. It is just based on the kind of plans in the name of sustainable development, which as a native of Uttarakhand, I can tell you this, that it is only on papers, on cards, the matter is quite different. And I am saying this with utmost responsibility. I cannot understand the development when we are talking about the public policies, when we are talking about the public governance. We talk about the public governance, but where do you find this public governance? The Constitution at times talks about taking vote, talks about majority. Where we find the referendum when these policy makers are making the policy for us, that includes them also. Whether the people of a certain state like such kind of development or not. Today, the case has been different. Today, the case becomes different rather. To the liking or to the disliking, still these governance or this kind of planning through that alleged governance is being pushed on us. These citizens are up arms against these policies because they are already saying, I tell you, in 2003, there was a letter which was written to the then Prime Minister by the government of Uttarakhand that certain developments should be stopped forthwith in the light of this public policy and sustainable development, because this development would be done at the cost of the environmental degeneration, and that also irreversible degeneration, irreversible damage. No heed was paid. That letter never came out. If this wouldn't have been done, we wouldn't have been able to know what actually was going on between the state and the central government since 2003. So what I'm trying to say is that the post-independent public policy which India tried to develop, today what we see is being developed, but at the cost of the nature, at the cost of the societal degeneration, at the cost of peace and tranquility. I can summon up the post-independence causes which were at rampant, which caused the complete stagnation of the public policy. For example, and we all know, I'm just reiterating so that we can refresh our memories. Rampant poverty was there, over independence on agriculture. Practically or initially there was no industrialization, very low national income, but high stage unemployment. But that doesn't mean that the governance would overshadow the overall prospect of the society. it should not overshadow the interest of the society. Yes, the needs are to be catered, but that doesn't mean that the needs should overflow. And even the catering should overflow. That must be curtailed. India, we all know, it's a mixed economy. It is a economy where on one hand, India talks about the agricultural based economy. On the other hand, it also at times talks about the capital based economy. So somehow the economic policies, they are reaching, between these two. And at times, India is not, at times India is not even afraid of taking the policies of USA, which is solely based on the capitalistic policies. So there, as far as the governance is concerned, then it has got a very different dimensions when we talk about the governance or the public policy based on the capitalistic formation. That goes extremely different. That is a very different part. And when we talk about the capitalistic based economy, when we talk about the capitalistic based governance, when we talk about the capitalistic based policies, then we leave behind our poor, economically poor netizens, because they are not in a position to take a part in such development based on capitalistic economy. So again, the public policy has to get balanced. There cannot be, a unilateral formation of development, but also there cannot be a total reliability on only one formation of development. For example, as I said, that India still boasts that it is having the basis of its economy in agriculture. And reverse is the practical picture of it. You may see what is happening to the fields, the agricultural fields, where concrete jungles are growing day by day. Where is the agriculture nowadays? But still, agricultural farming is being boasted about. I'm not critical about it. I'm saying, let us talk about a model which holds strong to all sectors of our society, which holds strong in all sectors of our society. Therefore, I was trying to refer to our old aspects, to our ancient, to our primitive, even to our medieval history, where India was growing well, and it was growing with not only sustainability, but also with balance. It was in balance actually, where there was no reliability on only one aspect. At one point of time, post-independence, India discouraged import. And it said that if the Swadeshi movement is to be, advanced, if it is to be somehow propelled, then import should be discouraged. Let us talk about export. Fine, very much. How you can discourage export at one instance? This is my question also. Therefore, post-independence, the then economists of India, they decided that India should go with a mixed economy. If there is an aspect of public sector, there should also be an other chapter of private sectors. If there is a public company, let there thrive also a private company. So this mixed economy gave us the different arenas of in development, not of development, different arenas in development. Arena of power, arena of transportation, arena of industries, arena of textiles, and then the modern formation of creating these, making these, producing these. Today we are standing with a policy of seeking advancement in the IT sector. We are going with so many treaties nowadays. One of the chief post-independence period achievement of the then government was to create a planning commission. The name itself connotes and echoes the very object of this commission. And this planning commission, tried to create plans for 5 years. That means that it tried to give plans, give in the hands of the government plans which can be executed in 5 years. Mind you, executed in 5 years. This is how the planning commission was developed. Policy governance was one of the primary objective of this planning commission. Policy governance, specifically the economic policy governance. This was the institution which was talking about the economic policy governance, because economic planning needs a considerable amount of research and control. So governance includes research and control. Research and control. Control means when you implement the research, that the research should not be implemented haywire. The research should be implemented keeping in mind that how and for whom that research is being done and where it is to be implemented. So the planning commission, it passed directives, it made certain laws, regulations, passed in so many years. The commission passed regulation policies, promotion policies for the employees, for the entrepreneurs, for the industrialists. But never it tried to underestimate the small scale industries, the village industries, the homemade entrepreneurship. The funds of the planning commission were even planned to get percolated to, it was planned to see that the funds reach and percolate even beneath the skin of all these fragile rural based economies. This is how the planning commission started to work. Social policies, one of the challenges was casteism, still it is. Governance, as far as social policy is concerned, our constitution is talking about untouchability, one should not. It is talking about equality. Article 15 and 16, they talk about where there is no good or equal representation. Yes, the downtrodden or the underprivileged, they should get the opportunity. Policies made on these, termed as the social policies, again, they need a check and balance. It should reach to the people who really need them. Why I'm saying this? Because the intention of the constitution had never been to create a rift between developed and the underdeveloped. Though India itself, it is still being termed as a developing economy. But within our developing economy, we boast of the classes of, ranging from developed to the, not so developed and the underdeveloped. Though the economy within which we are living is still developing. This is the irony. So our constitution has tried its level best through the articles. The founders, they have tried to give not only balance, but a check also. As I said in my opening remarks, opening words, that as far as the check and balance is concerned, that hierarchy from top to the bottom is already laid. Question here is how to monitor. Question here is how to relate it with the society. Question here is how to intercept the need within the stipulated period of time. Question here is how to upgrade. Question here is how to balance between different formations of the policies of different fields, rather in different fields. I cited out so many, like agriculture, science, technology, conveyance, rail, road, that means infrastructure. And of course, still not, much talked but not followed much, that is environment. It is talked much but not followed much. So as far as the social policies through the public policy is concerned, let me give you a very small reference to finally culminate my today's discussion with you all. That there were economic reforms which were laid between the mid-60s and mid-80s, rather in 1960s and 1980s, where agricultural development was taken to its priority. The government initiated that green revolution to mark the primary concern towards the agriculturists. The first step towards the liberalization of the economy was taken by the then Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. Many restrictions on various sectors, mainly automobiles, were eased. Control pricing system was removed. So from the monetary, it shifted to the social. The policies also reflected giving equal opportunities to the people to get employed in the private sector, because generation of employment, because unemployment has always been a challenge, one of the drawbacks of any public policy till date of India, pre or post. To generate the employment in the private sector, initially there was a hitch, because India, or the Indians, or the middle class Indians, they have this mentality that generation of employment is a responsibility of the government, and government employment is the sole criteria of calling oneself successful economically. So Rajiv Gandhi tried to change this vision, this approach. And today you can see that not only in the industrial sector, but even in the educational sector, so many private universities are coming, and many individuals very happily, they are ready to work, and they are still working under it. And today that hitch has gone, that reluctance to accept has gone. This is one of the chief aspect of the social as well as the economic policy under this public policy, which I would say has gained a considerable amount of success in making the Indian believe that yes, bread and butter can also be allocated, can also be located in private sectors, not always in the government sectors. A very great shift, actually, that actually gave more options to the Indian youth, to the Indian unemployed youth. The current government is trying to come up with so many different ideas about employment, about generation of self-employment, that Kaushal Vikas Yojana, and there are so many which talks about developing the skills, or if you are already skilled, then polishing the skills and certifying those skills. Certifying, because pre-independence and immediately post-independence, this was one of a huge outcry that people, the Indian people, the Indian netizens, they are skilled, but they doesn't have a justiciable document which can justify their skills, and therefore they are exploited. And hence, in majority, these unskilled, or rather the skilled but not certified persons, they fall in the category of unorganized sector, the most vulnerable sector till date, which is being exploited every day, even now. This was something which I think we should give credit to our late Rajiv Gandhi ji, that he tried to lay some very solid economic reforms. 90s, we all know the crisis with the Soviet Union fell into, that India was deeply indebted to the Soviet Union, because when I say it was deeply indebted, means economically it was under debts, and India was also taking heavy loans from the IMF. The moment Soviet Union ran into economic distress, IMF asked India for a bailout loan, because India was asking a loan. So it said that I need a bailout loan. The then finance minister, we all know, the great Manmohan Singh ji, he initiated the economic liberalization in 1991, and he tried to save the Indian economy from getting into complete crunch and complete breakdown. And somehow the Indian economy revived. Again, there was a very and great and far-sighted economic policy or policies which this great man made, which even today the current government is also following. As in the case of the foreign policy, which in 1977-78, when late Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji was the foreign minister, the foreign policy which he made, which only runs in around 24 pages, till date only 6 pages are or could be implemented. No government after 1977 could overlook those policies. Same is with the case of the economic policies of the great Manmohan Singh ji. And after liberalization, then the foreign investments came. The FDI, the concept of FDI has come today, which is again a part of the public policy. SEBI, one of the chief economic organ, which is also the watchdog. Initially, it was a non-statutory body, but in the early 90s, it became an act, and it that non-statutory body was converted into a statutory body. And we have seen the development so far as India is concerned from the early 90s. What I'm trying to establish out here is that there has always been, since ages till now, from time to time at different stages, global meltdown in relation to economies, in relation to politics, whether it is an intra politics or it is an international politics. But global meltdown has always been reported. The public policy, any public policy across the globe of any country, if it overlooks this global meltdown, would fail miserably, or it has failed miserably. And Russia, Soviet Union, once it used to be called Soviet Union, that is one of the glaring example of this overlooking the global meltdown. Now, this global meltdown could be, as I said, at times it can come on over the economies, it can come over the industries, it can come over the research, it may come over the agriculture. The people, the committee, the team which is responsible for governance, responsible for making the plans, responsible for talking and easing and making schemes for the sustainable development, should keep a watch on this global meltdown. The war between Russia and Ukraine, it is of course it has become now a global meltdown as far as the import and export with these two countries are concerned. And India, unfortunately, is into the hems of the economic affairs of both the countries. Severe investment has already been done, even in Afghanistan, in Iran, in Iraq, and today India just cannot back out. To such an extent that there is no other efficacious remedy but to participate in the economic development in whatever way, in whichever way it is possible. Even during the course of war, India was not in a position to withdraw, It had to go along with its development plans, which were initiated with the bilateral treaties with these different countries at different point of time. So global meltdown is something which, this is a phrase which initially Karl Marx he used, and then later on Naipaul also used, the great economist Naipaul also used, when he said that the world economy at times overrates itself while making the plans, while making the policies, while making the outreach policies for its governance. Once Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, Professor Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, he said in the parliament itself, he said that the time will come when the world will have to think about global governance. Though there are institutions like UN and UNESCO and all, but we all know the reality. They are puppets in the hands of the few G8s. But global governance in reality will become a necessity. It will become a necessity sooner or later, because nowadays the world economies, the development plannings in the different world economies are getting similar. Even the underdeveloped economies are also trying to foot in on the similar plane. So the social engineering concept of the great Dean Roscoe Pound will have to be implemented, if not today then tomorrow, where he says that equality amongst equals and equality shall lie on the same plane. It cannot lie on different planes. And when we are talking about a plan which is giving equal opportunity, is giving transparency, is giving stability, then this global meltdown has to be countered. This is the word for today's economies throughout the world, I'm talking. And keeping in mind a different form of sufferings, different form of sufferings, whether it is man-made or natural, which has increased or are increasing day by day. Global governance is the call of the hour. Whether it comes from UN or whether it comes from the International Court of Justice, I do not know how this will be mitigated, how this will become a reality, but sooner or later, the 198 odd countries of this globe will have to come together to talk about the global governance rather than personal or national governance, and then a global policy or policies not only within the periphery of treaties but also within the periphery of the globe. And I'm not making castles in the air. Only 2 decades back, this environmental cause was the talk, uh, rather it was a subject of amusement, was a talk of amusement. Today, everybody has gone serious, as far as, though I must say that not everybody is taking these steps, but at least they are now aware about it. 2 decades ago, nobody was even paying the heed. Not even the UN Security Council was paying the heed. But today, everybody is. Nuclear. I will end with my last sentence. Nuclear disarmament was a phase which was talked about by America and Russia, but never they themselves they implemented it for their own sake. Rather, they were always teaching the others. And what is the result today? Even the public policy, when we may, based on our national budget, you can see the major chunk of our national budget, which otherwise should have been used for the welfare policies under the public policy, is going for our nuclear or for our upgrading or uprising of our weapons. So a public policy or a global governance or a global public governance or a global public policy is the need of the hour, and the state mind policies will not work now. We have to somehow we have to agree on this point, that the society, not only the Indian, but all the societies living on this earth, they have to agree that potential traditional formats of policy making is no longer required, and it is not successful. And India has always said, not today, since ages, that shloka, Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dugh bhavet, sarv mangal mangalye Shiva Sarva Sadhike Sharanayam Triambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. This shows the concern. This actually connotes and echoes the global public policy governance, which once India used to rule, India used to lead. Thank you very much. And I think I have completed. I have taken too much extra from my allotted time. And thank you for the opportunity. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So would you like to take up some questions from the participants?
Very much, very much. I would be more than happy.
Participants, if you have any question, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can either write a question in the chat box also. Any questions from the participants? Yes, I think there are no more questions from the participants.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a very informative and insightful session. And thank you so much for taking out your precious time for us and the participants.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. And I'm extremely happy to share on a topic which is currently is being debated throughout the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. For the participants, I would like to request you all to kindly remain in the meeting, because we will be starting with the second session very soon. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Fine, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm Gauri Gulati and I will be moderating the session for today.
Great.
So, ma'am, I'll just give a quick introduction and then we'll start. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So, good evening to all of you and once again, welcome back. So, on today, day 8 of the faculty development program and day 2 of the workshop on public policy and governance. For second session, we have with us Dr. Priya Sharma from Jagran School of Public Policy and International Affairs, Jagran Lake City University, Bhopal. And ma'am will be taking the second session. So, good evening and welcome, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Ma'am, you may proceed with the session.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Priya Sharma, and I'm an assistant professor in Jagran Public School of Public Policy and International Affairs. May I request everyone to switch on their cameras for a while so that we can interact? I think it will be good if we'll interact with each other. Yeah, I know because all of you must be tired for listening to the long sessions and the workshops. We do that, but I think we'll enjoy more when we interact face to face as on the virtual mode. Yeah. So as my topic for today is evaluation and policy maintenance. I think you are all academicians. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I think this word public policy is being considered as a very innovative and a new term in the field of humanities. But let me tell you, the word policy is not new. Why I'm saying this, because some of you must be wondering what she's saying, this is not a new term, as the world is running behind public policy as in terms of academics. But actually policy has got connection with politics, and the granny or the grandmother of public policy is political science, and the mother of public policy is public administration. So when we talk about policy, it involves the interaction of public bureaucrats or the civil servants, as well as the involvement of the politicians into it. So if I talk about public policies, evaluation and maintenance, like many people, they don't have a correct idea about what is policy, how we evaluate, how we actually do the maintenance. Now, some of you must be thinking ki when the policy drafters had drafted the policy and it is being implemented, what is the need or for the requirement in terms of maintaining that policy? See, we all need a maintenance in our life. Our body is like a machinery and we need to maintain it. Like we do our daily stuffs to keep ourselves fit in various terms. We do our physical activities like running, walking, gymming. Then we take care of ourselves in many things, dressing up properly and going to our work areas. Same way, when we draft a policy, time to time, it should be evaluated and it should be maintained so that what you are offering for the society, people should know exactly what the public policy is meant for them. As this particular FDP and workshop is majorly on education and governance, and I'll be tapping majorly policy, connecting it with the world of education because we all are academicians. When I talk about public policy, in the very simplest term, a policy which is designed for the public is a public policy. But one should always be clear with the fact that public policy is a very complex and a broad concept. Why I'm saying so? If I talk about the educational policy, or if I talk about the development policy, it is very wide, and the area of it is like a never-ending thing. Why I'm saying this? Because it runs in the society, and when we talk about society, Society is nothing but it's a group of human people, and which runs on the values, which is running on the need of what we want from the system, from the administration. And how do we do that? By taking into account our political, by involving our political leaders into it. And where these policies are being pinned, it is being pinned in different locations. Let's take an example of the education policy. In the year 2020, NEP is being launched. And that NEP is not either restricted to the school education or to the higher education. But if I'm talking about NEP, NEP is that particular policy which is actually being running on taking the education to the next level, where they are connecting theory with practice, with practicality more. Very simple funda is linked with this education policy. In India, till date, India is a developing country. And if I'm talking about the educational policy, there were major defects due to which majority of the Indians are still not literate. And reasons could be many of it. And this was being evaluated by the think tanks. Kahan kami hai, where we are lacking. And it is being studied that if a person had attained a graduate degree in the very first year, and due to some reason he or she is actually moving out or stepping out of the education world, at least a person should be certified for that particular stream they had opted for. So that is why I'm saying it has to deal with values, it has to deal with the societal concept, and the need should be kept in mind. Why? Because for whom we are drafting the policy? For us, for public policy, for public. And who is the public? You and me. Correct? So if I'm talking about policy, it is nothing but it is an art and craft game. Why? Because we involve our vision into it. We create policies in that way that it should benefit at all the levels of the society. So it's very creative. And how we are doing it? By imagining the future into it. And when we are doing it, we are actually identifying and explaining the problems which are being present in the society. When I'm talking about policy in terms of its evaluation, I think you all know this, creating a policy is giving a birth to the problem, as well as it is giving birth to solve the problem also. When we create a policy for a particular cause, we are solving that problem. But when we are solving that problem, we are giving birth to the new problem, which require another policy to draft out of it. And that is not being ensured whether implementing the policy for the problem which was being already existing in the society will lead to a positive or a negative impact. Why? Because when I'm talking about public policy, there are certain common elements on which the policy is being evaluated. Why we draft the policy? Policy, before word policy, public name is being attached to it. So policy is always being made in the name of the public. It is being initiated by whom? By the government. Where we implement, in the private or in the public sector. We cannot say public policy is being stick to the government sectors. No. Even Ambanis and Adanis, they have their own policies. But the major tricky game in the word policy is it always show they want to show, and what they don't want to show, they never ever will show. So the scope of public policy is very simple, but it actually turns to be very complex. Why? Because it is hierarchical in nature. It starts from the narrowest point and it ends to the wider aspect. If I need a policy, so that is my individual, maybe or may not be my individual need to it. And if it's individual need, so directly and indirectly, it is affecting my family. And where my family and I am residing in a society, and where society is existing in a nation, and where this nation is in a globe. So if I'm talking about public policies evaluation, we cannot make it specific to a group, to a department, but actually we are evaluating it on the global aspects. Can I get an answer from anyone who is in this workshop? Who evaluates policy? Can anyone tell? Who evaluates policy? If I say policy is being evaluated by the elite class, I'll give it 3 options. If I say policy is being evaluated by the think tanks, or we, the citizens, evaluate the policy. Who actually evaluates the policy? Can anyone tell?
We the citizens.
We the citizens. Very true. And what about the 2 levels I had just talked of? Aren't they? They actually evaluate. They also evaluate. See, what I told you is in the beginning of my lecture, public policy's grandmother is political science and mother is the public administration. So it crosses all the 3 levels. But yes, we at the grassroots levels are the ones who actually evaluate, because this is directly and indirectly it is affecting us. But how we are evaluating it? Through certain channels, through certain agencies, which involves a proper cooperation and coordination of your government agencies, think tanks, pressure groups, trade associations, business groups, whatsoever. So if I'm talking about policy, why we evaluate policy? Very simple. When we evaluate policy, we actually determine what will be the outcome of the policy. And when we are determining its outcome, actually we are talking about the strengths of the policy. And you all know where the strength exists, weaknesses and challenges are there. To improvise those things, what we use certain resources so that we can be more accountable in front of the society as the think tankers or the policy analyst or specialist. And when we do all these things, what we are doing? We are fulfilling our professional responsibility to show the effectiveness of the policy evaluation. Now, when I'm talking about policy evaluation, there are certain types of policy evaluation. First, as I told you, what will be the outcome result? Positive, negative, very fruitful. When we are evaluating the policy, we also evaluate the policy at the time of implementation also. Like whether it will be formative, whether it will be summative. Now, if I talk in terms of the students, for students, NEP implementation in higher education is actually very good, because they are getting a lot of opportunities to connect themselves with the practicality. Fine. But if I talk in terms of us, the academicians, what are the outcomes related to it? Is it fruitful? Is it hectic? Or is it in a very balanced way? Can I get answer from anyone over here? Anyone who would like to answer a question? I just ask. Implementation of NEP on academicians. How we are getting benefit out of it. Can anyone tell me? Because we are also the ones who are evaluating the policy when we are implementing NEP in our higher education. Can anyone? Please let me tell you, I'm not judging everyone or anyone over here. It's just an interactive session. Yeah, Tanvi.
We are upgrading ourselves. Like right now, I'm attending this course. So we are upgrading and learning more things.
But my, partially correct. But my question is how you are implementing when you are acting as a teacher, except in terms of FDP. FDPs were going long back. But when you are interacting in your own area zone, how you are making it possible? I'll give an example and I'll connect it with myself. I say this, yes, this NEP is actually what Tanvi said. I agree, and then that is why I said ki partially I agree with her, because she said ki we are upgrading ourselves. I'll tell you an incident related to it, evaluating of policy. I was giving a lecture on refugee to my students. And the one who comes from the political science or public administration or public policy background can actually know that refugee is a very boring topic. If we portray a lot of examples also, still it is a boring topic. I had observed everyone's face during the class and I found it key, no, teaching only or delivering of lecture won't work. What I had done with that? I simply turned that teaching methodology into practice. And I conducted a Nukkad Natak on it. And that Nukkad Natak turned to be so fruitful. Even the one who used to be the least attentive in the class turned to be the most active participant in participating in that Nukkad Natak on refugee. So when Tanvi said ki, yes, we are upgrading ourselves. So we are upgrading ourselves because we are using our minds in terms of innovating our teaching methodologies into it. We are constantly doing a research. If we are doing an FDP, and I don't know how many of you will be benefited with my lecture, I really don't know out of it. But my approach is always to, instead of doing a lot of blah blah, is to turn that thing into practice, which I'll be doing with all of you right now after a few minutes. Because I know listening to one people constantly is very, very, very boring. So what I'll be doing is I'll be giving you an activity and then I'll be asking each one of you to evaluate yourself on that particular policy. Fine. I think you all will enjoy on that. So when I'm talking about the evaluation in terms of policy, we are talking about its outcome. We are talking about its improvisation, and we talk whether the evaluation of the policy turned the scope of the policy into large, small, broad, or in a most complex manner. Now, when we evaluate the policy, there are certain common challenges which always occur in the path of the policy specialist. Number of challenges are there, and some of the challenges are that much rigid which cannot be solved even by the experts. The major challenges which is being observed in the areas of policy evaluation is when more than one organization is being evolved into it, you cannot set the common standards or the measures. Why? Everyone has got a different set of mind. And the activity which I'll be giving, the activity will be common for each and everyone, but everyone will come out with their own outcome. Why? Psychological concept hai bhai. You cannot think what I am thinking right now. Maybe I am thinking, yeah, everyone is enjoying my lecture. Maybe I am wrong. Everyone must be thinking it is a very boring lecture. I cannot force the things upon each other. Inadequacy. Inadequacy in terms of the baseline. What type of performance is being expected when the policy is in the field or in the path? And let me tell you, the fruitfulness of any policy depends upon the cooperation of the various agencies which is being involved. And let me take an example on this. If I'm talking about NEP, why NEP is getting fruitful results day by day? Cooperation. Cooperation of whom? Cooperation of state, cooperation of center, cooperation of institutes like universities, colleges, acceptance by the teacher, acceptance by the students, and everybody is readily welcoming this because it was being, why we are creating the UG program into a 4-year program now. That is a demand. International benchmark standards are there today. World is a global village where now the Indian students are going across the different parts of the world to enhance themselves in terms of their professional areas, or other students from other countries are coming to our country to study, to seek a profession out of it. And this is how it is being done. When the policy is being evaluated, and after the evaluation of the old education policy, new was being introduced into the system. And that is why if the cooperation would be lagged off, the fruitfulness of this policy won't be that much acceptable by the society. There are certain measures through which the monitoring and the evaluation is being done. And let me tell you, the monitoring is not being done on the basis of evaluating the policy by the acceptance from the society, but it also involves the cost benefit analysis out of it. So, and there are various range of institutions which actually talks in terms of policy evaluation on the international level. And one of the international institution which actually evaluates the policy when it is being drafted on the global basis is your International Labor Organization. So now, when I'm talking about policy evaluation on a very constant basis, now is the time where I'll be engaging every one of you with an activity. Fine. And that activity is nothing but it's a very brain game. So I think I have 58 contestants with me, including me. So I'll exclude myself and I'll exclude the moderator ma'am into it. Okay, out of it. So we have a number 56 participants with me right now. What do you have to do? You all know the objectives of the NEP 2020. I think you all are aware of it. What is being done in that policy? You have to evaluate that policy and you have to come with your own outcomes. And for this, I'm just giving you 5 minutes to think, and then I'll be asked, and I want an answer from each and everyone. That the thing which is being evaluated, you don't have to tell. You have to tell what you want more out of it. Fine. So the time starts now. 5 minutes I'm going to give. It's 6:04 on my laptop. And after 5 minutes, that is 6:09, I'll be asking. So all the best, start thinking, and then I'll come up with the concept why I had asked to do this. And for that, I'll be needing everyone's camera to be switched on. Now I can see only Bhavna ma'am's and Savita ma'am's camera is being switched on.
Ma'am, could you please repeat the question?
Yeah, I'll repeat. I said that NEP 2020 is already being designed, drafted, and implemented. In that policy, what is being done, you don't have to evaluate that. What you need more, you have to think from your own mindset, and you have to answer your question after 5 minutes. What do you think as an academician would be more fruitful for the students' professional growth and for the higher education growth? Just 5 minutes. It's a brain game. Three minutes more. I think if anyone is ready, can come up with the answer and can take the lead on this. Anyone? Because I'd heard that participants are really very active in this channel. Yes, ma'am.
My battery is low, so I think I should answer first before it
Yeah, sure.
goes down. I feel if I evaluate NEP 2020 at my own level, I feel that still when the policy is already implemented, there are a large number of stakeholders who are not ready to accept it.
Yes.
There is resistance from our end to implement the policy properly. We need cooperation from both the sides, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So what I see, we are lacking in the implementation, in the proper carrying out of this policy, that we are lacking the training of the faculty members. There are many faculty members who have attended FDPs on this particular topic and are preparing themselves to be productive, to be constructive. But there are people who have not attended any FDP on this important topic and are just neglecting it. So there is a lot of work which is needed, and we need more encouragement from the side of government, I think. This is what I wanted to say.
Okay, ma'am, that's nice. It's a good thing you had pointed out that yes, many academicians still not aware that how much policy is actually important for them. Good, ma'am. Very nice. Yeah. Who's next? So Savita ma'am has taken a lead. Who's next? Anyone can switch on their mic and yes, ma'am. Yes, sure. Shelly ma'am. Yes.
Now, taking forward what Savita ma'am has said, and this NEP, it talks about the different methodologies by which we can provide education to our children. For example, it talks about the indigenous ways of learning. But the thing is, the teachers, they are not being made equipped for that. So I think that is one area where while the teachers are going to teach the students, the teacher also needs the training. as to how to do that. So that thing, I think NEP should have talked about more on that, and there should be more of workshops and seminars in order to educate the teachers as to how they can teach in different ways. So the pedagogy should be made aware to the teachers, I think. So this is one area I think NEP should look into.
Very true, ma'am. Yes, because NEP is constantly focusing on the students aspect. But what about the ones who are teaching them? Actually, very true. Yeah, who's next?
Ma'am, can I say?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah. So from my analysis, I say that since one of the objectives of NEP is that introduction of vernacular medium is one of the main criteria, that in the primary level, the education will be given in vernacular medium, and from class 5 onwards, they can like opt for whatever. So my analysis is that instead of it being made compulsory that vernacular medium should be made a compulsory language, I felt that along with English as a language or any other one language, it should be made compulsory with that. Because in the long run, when we go, suppose for example, I am from Assam, so my vernacular medium here would be Assamese. Once I go out of my state, I will not be like talking or interacting in Assamese language. There will be either Hindi or English. So my analysis is that instead of making vernacular language from the beginning, because in the foundation level deals in this younger classes only. So from that only, if we don't understand the concept of English as a language, I'm not focusing on English, I'm focusing on any one language which is national in nature, which can be interacted with all of the people. So if the foundation is made strong from that side, then it will be easier for us to adapt to other vernacular languages also. Let's say some other foreign languages also. But if we are not well equipped with one national language as such, then it would be difficult for us to go out and interact with people, because like you said, ma'am, world is a global village now. We are not confined to one place, so we have to go outside and we have to meet people. But if our basis is only not that, that's why what happened is that when I see students, some of them are still here, those who are in they taught themselves in vernacular medium, they find it difficult to interact with people. They have a lack of confidence.
They have thoughts in their minds. They have thoughts in their mind. They are very
reservations,
but due to this particular language,
exactly. In fact, they have more better points than what we think.
Very true.
But because of the language barrier, they are not able to say. So that is my evaluation.
Very nice, sir. And I agree with your statement, because the thing is that one workshop what I had attended, and it was of UGC level. There they had it was in Bhopal itself. So there they were focusing that teachers should not be focusing that you should either work on your English, or either you should go for some particular language. If you are very expressive in Hindi, because India is a state where we maximum number of states is a Hindi speaking state. So if you are there to express your thoughts in Hindi, it's like it should be welcomed by the students, and you should not degrade the students. What is this? You are staying in Hindi, you are studying in an English medium university. So the language shouldn't be the barrier into it. Very good, sir. Very nice. Yes, ma'am. Kumud, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
I'm from Government Institute. The main problem in the institutes is infrastructure.
Very true.
And secondly, I think so the attendance of the students is very minimized. Something should be done from the government itself, like because I'm a law teacher and people are not attending. Even though if something has been done by NEP 2020, till date, the people are not coming, students are not coming. So something, penalty, something should be done from the government side so that the students are attending the classes.
Very true.
They don't come to know what is happening in the universities or the colleges.
And I think the major role in this of not turning the students into the campus, online classes had actually spoiled them. Yeah, that was a pandemic. We all had that was the major reason.
Yeah, today, but we are facing, till date, we are facing the attendance is very low, Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Very true on that. And as you said, you belong from the government institution. Infrastructure, yes, also plays a very important role into it. And if I talk on this, the CM of Delhi, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, had played a very good role into it, where he had actually change the picture of the government school, and it is as much as equivalent to the public schools in the private sectors of education of school level. And if I talk in terms of attendance, so ma'am, I think I am a very blessed faculty of Jagran Lake City University, where we had, because everybody is facing this problem, and our honorable vice chancellor sir has taken a very strong decision. The ones who are not attending the classes, he had first called the sessions and talked with each and every one student what is the problem, and the genuine problems were being taken into account. But yes, we had taken us where we had detained the students, and now the students are coming regularly to the campus and attending the classes. So yes, when we are drafting so much for their betterment, yeah, they should be. Yeah, anyone else? I think
Yes,
Tanvi
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Even students are not ready for this practical aspect of the learning. One example I would like to quote with you, ma'am. Recently, a company approached to my institution, and we counseled many of the students to go for the internship. And finally, there was only 5 students who were ready to go, and rest of the students, they took their leg back. Reason being, they are saying ki, this is the examination times now, we want more score and we do not want this practical aspect. That means their mentality is still there ki, we have to score more marks. They are not understanding the importance of upskilling or
Very true.
building. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. I also agree with your aspect, because being in the teaching line, actually my nephew is in 10th standard, and I'll connect this with your word, what you had said. I always tell him that, my dear, you should be bright enough to clear all your exam, but you should always focus on the skill. You shouldn't run behind the numbers and the percentage. Because ma'am, as what you said, Tanvi ma'am said, key students still have that mindset. So who's actually seeding that mindset? The teachers and the parents. Actually, please don't mind everybody. Why? Because 12th mein, if the child is scoring 90%, तो अरे तुम्हारे 95% क्यों नहीं आए? Why you are not scoring 92%? Why you are not scoring this much percent? Uska bacha is scoring this much percent. Teachers, the one who is getting or is being called as a topper of the class is always given a lot of opportunities. But let me tell you, the fact is, the one who are the backbenchers are the naughtiest, we all agree, being the teachers. And we always scold them, what is this? Keep quiet, don't disturb the class, don't make the class a fish market. Every lot and lot we do. But let me tell you, the one who is scoring high marks, that is a bookish knowledge. But the one who is using the brain to create a nuisance in the class is actually the one who is creating an intelligence or using the intelligence. So this is a request from my end, being a teacher, and I believe in this particular strategy, that naughtiest are the most intelligent. Naughtiest are the most intelligent people. And I know this, there are teachers who are more senior to me in this particular session, may or may be disagree with my statement. But now when we focus on NEP, skill enhancement is must. And that comes not in terms what Tanvi ma'am said, not in terms of marks, but in terms of your innovation and intelligence. And let me tell you what activity I had conducted, I had not thought even of. I thought I'll be coming and delivering a lecture and I'll go off. But I thought ki, let's do something different. Chalo, education policy, NEP hai, chalo puche to sahi sabka kya aspect hai, what people want. Fine. So who is another one to take an initiative? 2 more I'll take and then we'll proceed. Anyone, because I'm really getting good points. And see, we all are coming with our own ideas, and believe me, we can actually come up with more things into it. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, there is one more parameter in this NEP,
Yes,
like collaboration is there with the industries.
Yeah.
But institutions are in rural areas and industries are in the different part of the area. So it would be, I think, challengeable for
I
every
agree.
institution, those specifically who are in the rural areas.
I agree with your statement, ma'am, because still government, we say government always works for the grassroots level, but yes, there is a major setback for this. But what we can do, as we had changed into a hybrid mode, what as an academicians I can suggest, and that could be a part of the internship program for our students who are residing in the city areas, to go and educate the rural students over there, and that could be a part of the internship by tying hands with the UNICEF or this type of agencies, and we can actually take an initiative to educate them that what is the advantage of getting yourself placed in an industries and how you can connect yourself with the industry. And the another part will be that you can utilize this in a very innovative way. Send your students will also feel हम कुछ अलग हम पढ़ाने जा रहे हैं, where they can tell the benefit of it. So this can be taken into an account, and I think if we all will take an initiative on this, we'll overcome with this problem. Yes, we'll take time. I cannot say this that can be done in a magic thing, but yes, we can overcome with that. Yeah, anyone else? One more and then I'll come up. One more. I think you all are enjoying the session because yes, sir. I think Sujit sir wants to say something. Anyone can come up with the idea. See, because we are academicians, we are dealing with our students in our day-to-day life. So we know what we are doing, what we are serving. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Sanjay sir. You actually, my participants are good. So please, anyone can tell, please. I think Sujit sir is with us, and I think Sujit sir is elderly to me. So his suggestions may be fruitful for me also. And sir, yes, you can come up with your ideas, sir, if you want. Anyone, or shall I proceed?
मैम मेरा एक सबमिशन है, आपने जो अभी सजेशन दिया, जो अब हम रूरल सेक्टर में बात करते हैं इंटर्नशिप के प्रोग्राम्स के दौरान, तो जब हम ट्रेनिंग करके आते हैं तो ये बहुत जरूरी है कि हम अक्सर ये सोचते हैं कि रूरल सेक्टर के बच्चों को हम एजुकेट करें और बाकी सब चीजें करें। मेरा ये कहना है, मेरा सबमिशन है कि टू वे कम्युनिकेशन होना चाहिए। जो हमारे जो अर्बन स्टूडेंट्स हैं वो भी जाकर सीखें, क्योंकि जो रूरल सेक्टर के जितने भी स्टूडेंट्स हैं, चाहे उनकी फॉर्मल एजुकेशन बहुत स्मार्ट नहीं रही हो, लेकिन उनके पास प्रैक्टिकल प्रॉब्लम्स के बहुत सारे ऐसे सॉल्यूशंस हैं जो कि हमारे अर्बन स्टूडेंट्स को भी सीखना चाहिए। सो माय सबमिशन इज दैट इट शुड बी अ टू वे कम्युनिकेशन rather than we should say that we should educate them. This is also essential that our urban student should learn their life skills and as well as their new innovations.
And a sense of doing a hard work also from them. Very true, ma'am. Very true. Thank you so much for the valuable suggestion. And I think, yeah, I was missing on that because, yes, this is the best possible way of attracting our rural students into it. Yes, because and what Rupa ma'am said, it's a two-way communication. क्यों two-way? क्यों हम हमेशा urban की बात करते हैं? क्यों हम अपने गांव को जोड़? And you all know, I think you all had heard this particular statement by our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi ji said that if you want to visit India, start your journey from the village first. So yes, and that and I think Rupa ma'am, I'll agree with the statement. I can say that we should start an internship by or from the rural end actually first, and then to the urban. And we can like the particular department of the concerned university or college can take the initiative to adopt some particular village, and this can be turned into a vocal education. Like if I talk about the education policy and administration, it always give more and more focuses on the vocational education, and vocational type of education is the best education where we can actually pull the rural students to teach the urban people. Very good, ma'am. Very true. Very true. Anyone else, or shall I go ahead? Yeah, ma'am. I think Rupa ma'am is sorry, ma'am, you are not audible. I think some
there are so many
network
best
issues there.
practices. Yeah, there are so many best practices in rural sector. We should document them. This is also essential.
Hello? Hello?
Well, yeah, thank
Anyone can reply? Am
Ma'am,
I
you're
audible?
audible. You're audible, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. So, see, why I had conducted this exercise. You being an academician, actually setting the key performance of NEP, where you are finding it, the gaps into it. So if I'm talking about the performance indicators in this particular practice, what we had actually done, you must have observed on a very silent note that if I'll be putting my idea, anyone will think of it, anyone can care on it, or the people will trust it, or the people will going to believe what I actually want to say. Just a second, just a second. So when I'm talking, I'll be coming up, or I'll be taking an initiative on this. Anyone will care on? Any people trust what I am saying? But see, we all are agreeing with each other, and this is how the policies are actually being evaluated. This is how the policies are being actually evaluated, and this is how the policies usability come into it. Fine. So if I'm talking about the evaluation of policy, there are certain factors which are being considered in terms of evaluating the policy, in terms of setting the targets. And that is the baseline. We are talking about the NEP thing. So the baseline of the NEP was the past trend, was what is being designed in that NEP 1986. What are the areas where this particular need of the education policy is being arose in the year 2020? What are the certain logistics and capacity that has to taken into account, and how we can actually set the benchmark to it, and how we had done it, and we had done it on the international ground by making undergraduate program of 4 years. This is how there are certain factors on which the policy is being actually evaluated. When we actually evaluate the policy and setting up of the target, we run on the aspect of what will be the reality of it. Expectations on the past trends of the policy, and the reality will be what the client is actually. This is how the evaluation or the monitoring of the policy is being done. And it is being done on the various aspects, like we access the strategic information. We give stakeholders a certain processes to work on the policy. We understand the program for which the particular policy is being drafted, whether it will be fruitful, how the people can actually accomplish the goal, how the government will satisfy the concept of welfare, and how it is being done. It cannot be and it cannot be done blindly, but with the evidences. Like if I talk about NEP 2020, an old education policy was the baseline, it was the evidence, and by seeking those evidences, we had actually come up with the result that yes, this is the time where we have to focus on the super strengths of the education sector by turning it more into practicality. Fine. So when I'm talking about the policy evaluation methodologies, there are certain methodologies which is being adopted in evaluating the policy. Why? Because as I told you, a policy could be a bad or it could be a negative when we evaluate, and that depends upon the standard while drafting a policy. So if I'm talking about the policy evaluation, what is being done is the past is the result of the new. Fine. So एक क्या था makeover दिया हमने. We had given a makeover to the policy in terms of evaluating it. What was old? In the old, we always believe on the theoretical aspect. We used to test the alternative theories. We transform it from science to art or from art to science. What is being mentioned on the in the past theories, we used to work on that. But what is the new? New is something very quick, very innovative. I'll give this on a very interesting example. We all use mobile phones, correct? So thank you so much, Rupa ma'am. So if we are using mobile phone, so the journey of the mobile phone was being started from that telephone. ठीक है? वो dial वाला telephone, pring वाला होता था, where we used to dial up phones कहते थे. Then it was being replaced with the numbers we used to press those and we used to call. Then the cordlesses were being introduced. Then when the mobiles were introduced, it was somewhat a shape of a walkie-talkie or something or the other, wireless type of, and very heavy weighted. Then the size got decreased, but with an antenna on it. Baseline communication was there, but baseline क्या लिया हमने? Communication का to talk, but system got changed. फिर क्या आया? QWERTY keypad. Then the phones were being introduced, but without antenna. Then let's turn QWERTY keypads. Let's turn touchpads. Let's turn. Now in this single device, the whole world is in this particular device. So what we had done on the basis of the evidences and the baseline, we actually evaluate the policy, and that is how the particular policy gives a birth to a new policy. And what I said in the beginning, policy could be a problem solver and policy parallelly is a problem creator. Problem solver, to stick to one place, you can use the mobile and you can roam around. And what is the problem with it? We all are getting stick to it. Yes, without mobile, we are like a handicap. We are technologically handicapped. Fine. So this is the thing which is observed in the society when we actually talk in terms of the evaluation process. So if I'm talking about policy evaluation, and I told you in the beginning, it also includes your cost benefit, and that is being analyzed. If I'm talking about your policy evaluation, apart from its social and environmental aspect, it also focuses on the economic aspect. And without money, you cannot draft a policy. Let me tell you this very clearly. And for that, various economists are being taken into account to frame, design, evaluate, and maintenance policy. Talk about the cost analysis of the policy. It should be very futuristic. What is the future of the policy? What should be the objective if we are investing money into the policy? And apart from this, policies also evaluated on the basis how well and easily it is being understood in terms of spending money into it. So if I'm talking about the evaluation of the policy, apart from cost benefit, it is always run on the two aspects, that is quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative, using of scientific tools and the measurements, and the results which will be coming out of it, it will be evaluated on the quantitative terms. But if I'm talking about the qualitative term, it will be more subjective. It will be more theory based. It will going to take into account the people's interpretation, different types of interpretations, like what activity we had conducted just now. Everybody has their own mindset. Someone said it should be connect with the rural aspect. It should be a two-way communication. It shouldn't be a language barrier thing. Many things were there which were being initiated by you all. And this is how the come into account. And quantitative ki baat karte hain, when we analyze the two policies together on the basis of evidence, what was lacking in the past will be introduced in the new thing. Fine. So now if I am talking about the evaluation of the policy, the evaluation is on profit. Profit not in terms of money, but profit in terms of the welfare of the people. What is the proof? Client satisfaction. For whom we are doing? People. Place and promise. Place means the areas for which we had drafted the policy, and promise that whether the policy makers were successful in drafting and implementing the policy, and were the promises were being taken into account by seeing the citizens' satisfaction into it. So if I'm talking about public policy in terms of evaluation, it's a very cyclic process. When the policy is being identified, it will be implemented. And when it will be implemented, it will be evaluated. And when it will be evaluated, it will be go into its maintenance. And when once again it will go into maintenance, again the new policy will be formulated. It will be formulated, and once again the policy will be formulated. Again, out of it, after some studies and research by the researchers and the think tanks, new policy will take into account. This is how the policy evaluation is being done. Now, if I talk about the maintenance of the policy, so someone must be thinking like, because you all are not the students, so the thing could be, policy की क्या maintenance होती होगी? बना दी, दे दी, implement हो गई, लोग use कर रहे हैं, खत्म. But no, what I said in the beginning, you have to maintain yourself. If you all are coming to the particular session, what maintenance you had done yourself? To keep yourself interactive, to keep yourself attentive, and that was a repaired version. And if your connection is somewhere unstable, so you're going in and you're searching in that particular place where you can actually have a proper connection with the system. So maintenance of the policy always runs on two aspects. Corrective maintenance. When we evaluate the policy as a citizen, we always give the feedback. And the government can go. And this is the best practice we had done just now, where we ourselves had given that these things should always be taken into account. These things should be taken into account when the NEP 2020 was being designed. Why they had not focused on training the teachers? Why they had not focused on the aspects of the academicians? And what should be the preventive maintenance in terms of policies? That we should design, or we should be that much flexible for the policy so that it shouldn't come back in terms of the failure of the policy. So it should be very preventive maintenance. We should design the policy in that way. Yes, it should be understood by each and everyone, and it should be accepted by each and everyone. So if I'm talking about the after evaluation and the maintenance of a policy, how the grade policy is being maintained on the certain elements. When you're designing a policy, it should be fit for a purpose. It is not like that you are only focusing what government thinks of, what administrators are think of, or what politicians need for their vote banks. Fit for the purpose. Target. proper mission and vision. You all are working in some particular educational institutes, or when we were students. When we had taken admission in a particular institute, in the brochure of every institute, educational institute, they come up with a mission and a vision. And not only the brochure of the educational institute, whatever company, organization, firm you go, or a department, everyone has got their a particular vision and mission. So it should be fit for them. If you are implementing the policy, you should also keep into account not only the external engagement, but the internal engagement to it, internal environment of it. Means who are contributing for making the policy very clear in front of the public, they should also be benefited out of it. And when it is being implemented, clarity should be there. It should be easily accessible. And how can that be accessible? We all know with the introduction of the governance, with the e-governance, that can be done. Everybody is aware what is RTI, what is NEP, and what different type of policies it is being. And when I'm talking about policy in terms of the governance aspect, commitment should be there. Commitment should be there. Otherwise, you cannot make a policy a successful policy. And do you know, let me share you very quickly. Maintenance of a policy is being documented. You cannot say, yes, we are working on it, so we are maintaining it. The policy is always being documented, you all know. Apart from its vision and mission, they always should be very specific for the purpose they are designing a policy. It should have a statement of intent subjects which is being included, sub-subjects. Scope should be very clear so that even and it should be very simplistic in your language terms. Even the one who is unaware about the policy can understand by going through that particular document which is being written. You should also tell that what are the particular requirements in that policy. Feedback, example is. And what could be the related documents when we are talking about the maintenance of the policy. So this is the whole procedure through which the policies are being evaluated, and after the evaluation, constant maintenance is being actually seen in the area. So if I talk about a public policy, it's a very ongoing and a cyclic process, and people should know, people are aware कि कुछ तो policy है. But actually policy hota kya? How policy is being evaluated? Who evaluates policy? We always think yes, we are in the field of education, so we know citizens evaluate policy. But apart from citizen, it actually crosses 2 levels more. So if I conclude my session by saying the concept of evaluation and maintenance of policy, it is complex, but it is broad. It is rigid. But when it comes from the citizen-centric point of view, government had allowed it to make it very flexible. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions?
Any questions from the participants?
No, ma'am, it was clear.
I think I had taken a practice session, so people are tired talking.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions from the participants?
I think no questions are there.
There are no questions, I think.
Okay. So thank you everyone for listening me so patiently. And I hope now you are very well clear how policies are evaluated and is on the path of maintenance. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me an opportunity to interact with a lot of academicians today.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful and interactive session. And thank you for sparing your time with us and the participants. Thank you
so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And participants, as we head towards the end of this faculty development program, I would once again like to thank Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, Dr. Vimal Rar ma'am, Mr. Gaurav Gulati, Director, Dwight Pinnell Group, for constantly organizing such programs for the faculties. And once again, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the resource persons who have taken out their precious time for us and also shared their insights on the various workshops and the topics that we have held in this FDP. And last but not the least, all the participants, a very heartfelt thank you to all of you for all the because as you all cooperated with us throughout this 8-day journey, and hope to see you all in the events to come. Thank you so much, everyone.
Can I have a question with you, ma'am?
Sure, ma'am.
Like, I do it from this 4 to 9, that timing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Like, you have given us 2 assignments. I mean, 1 assignment with 2 questions.
Yes,
so, after submitting that, when are we likely to get our certificates, ma'am?
Ma'am, further assignments will also be given to you. And it will take at least 15 more days for you to complete all the assignments and the final submission, and then you will get your certificate.
Apart from this assignment, do we have any quizzes on any particular date,
Yes,
ma'am? Will you keep us informed?
Yes, ma'am. You will be informed on the group itself, and there are quizzes as well as there are some projects, one project and some assignments also. So
fine, a few more projects are yet to come in.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
हेलो
यस सर यस सर
मैम असाइनमेंट हिंदी में सबमिट कर सकते हैं क्या?
बिल्कुल सर, कर सकते हैं.
और वो
ओनली हिंदी एंड इंग्लिश, टू लैंग्वेजेस दैट यू कैन यूज. यस.
फोटो आईडी किस तरह से चाहिए मैडम?
फोटो आईडी सर आपको अपलोड करनी होगी, जो माई क्लास ऐप है उस पे ही अपलोड करनी होगी आपको.
वो कॉलेज का आईडी
डाला हुआ है सर जी, फॉर्मेट उस पे डाला हुआ है सर.
फॉर्मेट है क्या? ओके.
एक्सक्यूज मी मैम, मे आई टॉक टू यू?
करने का कोई ट्यूटोरियल वीडियो होगा?
मैम वन बाय वन प्लीज.
प्लीज कैरी ऑन.
यस तुलिका मैम प्लीज.
Yes ma'am, I want to know, there is no code for this workshop. Code, enrollment code. Can you send us enrollment code, because enrollment code is required in photo ID along with photo ID.
Ma'am, there are no
082.
Ma'am, there are no codes for the workshop, but there is code for the faculty development program.
Yeah,
It
for
is,
faculty development
that
program.
is
I'm asking.
082, right, ma'am?
082, yes, ma'am.
Okay, 082 we should write.
Yes,
everybody has same code, 082.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, Rupa, ma'am, you had a question.
Ma'am, can I ask my question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I am not able to log into e-class account. It is showing the password you have sent. It is showing incorrect password.
Ma'am, if you remember, there was one number shared to you all. And that number, you can just drop a message on that number. That is the GAD TLC number. And you can drop a message on that number with your name and your email ID, registered email ID, and they will solve your problem, ma'am.
Could you share the number again on the group?
Just a second, ma'am. I'll just type the number on the message chat box here, okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Just a second.
Thank you.
If you want to note it down, you can also note it down. I'm writing it in the chat box also. It is 981045470 It is 981045470 So if you have any problem regarding the My eClass app, what you can do is just drop a message on this number, WhatsApp message on this number with your name and your this email ID. They will sort it out.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I have only attended the workshop.
Yes,
will we be getting the certificates for the same?
You will be getting the certificate for the workshop only.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you repeat the number, please? That's WhatsApp number.
Yes, ma'am. I can repeat. It's 98 104 54 703.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
हेलो हेलो
Yes, ma'am.
मैम मैंने पहले भी वर्कशॉप लगाई थी GAD-TLC की पार्टिसिपेंट्स को सेपरेट कोड मिलते हैं तो इस बार नहीं मिले हमें
मैम अगर इसके रिगार्डिंग कुछ भी और फर्दर इंफॉर्मेशन होगी तो आई विल सी मैं आपका इसको सॉर्ट आउट करवा दूंगी क्या कोड्स होंगे
तो फोटो आईडी अपलोड करनी है ना
वन बाय वन मैम प्लीज वन बाय वन
और इस टेक्स्ट इसके मैटर के बीच में नहीं है
अब नहीं आएंगे ना
जो फोटो आईडी हमने अपलोड करनी है उसके टेम्पलेट पे हमारा पर्सनल कोड नंबर मांगा हुआ है
पैसे लेता है क्या
नहीं वो पैसे वाला तो और जोरदार आएगा पैसे देने के बाद तो ये उधर उधर का भी कुछ नहीं आता अपन क्यों पैसे का